Jesus' plans. In 2003, if you can all remember that back that far, boy, that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Whew. The people in Iraq experienced gigantic shock and awe. Shock and awe was the name, the military operation named at suspected weapons of mass destruction. You can argue that all day long, that were stored in Iraq. So the term shock and awe is a military strategy based on the use of overwhelming power and spectacular displays of force. Well, God can do that too. And Jesus is planning that, right? He's planning a shock and awe invasion of planet Earth, which most will interpret as the aliens are coming on white horses, right? And he's planning to knock down all human governments, yay, right? And install his royal family members, right, to rule over all nations. So that's his shock and awe plan, and almost nobody's tracking with it. They have this, when I die, I'm going to heaven, and it's like, I don't care about anything else, I just want to be in heaven, right? And surprise, they'll have a little shock and awe in the second resurrection, but the big shock and awe is when Jesus comes back. Jesus tells his faithful servants to pray, "Thy kingdom come," and gives them inside information about a mile marker checklist. And he's given that through Daniel, through other places, so that we can look for the events of the checklist, and then we can check off the events of the checklist, and we can know where we are. And anybody who's read and studied the book of Revelation, we've got 7 trumpets. There's a checklist, right? And some of them are kind of hazy and difficult to understand at first. Some of them fit perfectly with military activity. The trumpet number 5 is the scorpion sting, where they can't die for 5 months. It's like, woo, what is that, right? But at least church members don't have to suffer that. There's a little verse that says, those that have the Spirit of God don't get touched by trumpet number 5. Trumpet number 6, 200 million man army kills a third of mankind. Big shock and awe events, but these are not the one Jesus is bringing. He's bringing a bigger than all of that event, right? He tells to pray, "Thy kingdom come." He gives the mile markers. They tell us where we are and how far it is to our destination city. Many times, and Doyle went driving down Highway 7, many times I have driven from Hot Springs up Highway 7 headed for this building in Russellville, and I still have mental flashbacks of turning the corner, coming up Highway 7, and the mile markers, right? And I've got like all these mile markers. You drive up there, I don't know how many they are, I should go back and count them all, but like Russellville, 37 miles. Oh, 37 miles. Russellville, 25 miles. Okay, we're making progress. Russellville, 16 miles. Okay, it's not too far now. Russellville, 12 miles. Come on, we got to get there. And finally, I drive into Russellville. So each mile marker assured me that I was, in fact, on the right road. I was getting closer to my destination city. And that's what God wants us to know. Revelation is given so that we can know. He wants to show his servants the mile markers, the stepping stones of what's going to be happening first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, right? And we can know we're in the end times, or we can know we're coming closer and closer to thy kingdom come. So Jesus has given the mile marker signs to know how close we are getting to his shock and awe display. And sadly, people who don't keep the Feast of Trumpets, they're not in tune with the shock and awe day, right? So those who study the mile marker checklist will be thrilled when Jesus and the shock and awe happens. It's like, some morning, some evening, whenever it is, you hear a lot of noise. It's not explained fully, but there's going to be a lot of noise so that you can't sleep. Right? If you're trying to sleep and there's a lot of noise, right, you go, what's that noise? And you go outside and you look up in the sky and you see the white horses. And so the noise, white horses, oh, And those who've been keeping Feast of Trumpets will know, I know what this is. It's a mile marker. It's here. The shock and awe day has arrived, right? So most of humanity will be shocked out of their gourd when this day comes. And I stopped and I thought about that, and I said, is that an English expression, or is that an Australian expression, or is that an American expression? What does shocked out of your gourd mean? Anybody? Anybody know what that means?
I've never been in a gorge. I don't know how to be shocked out.
Well, I looked up gourd, and apparently you can make bird nests out of gourds. And I guess if you make enough noise and there's a bird in the gourd, you shock the bird out of his gourd. Anyhow, it's a good expression. It's just not understandable so much. Jesus says this day will come on humanity as a huge surprise, right? Because they will have peace and safety, right? The Pax Romana, the Roman Empire, said we're going to have peace now. The Third Reich, anybody know what the Third Reich meant? Anybody?
Rain.
What?
Rain.
Reign, okay, reign. It was 1,000 years of peace under Hitler, right? And of course that didn't happen. wouldn't have been a very happy peace, would it? Revelation 16:15. Behold, I'm coming as a thief. Blessed is he who watches, right? Meaning I'm coming unexpectedly. That's the point of the thief. Jesus explains his use of the thief idea in Matthew 24:43. He says, but know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken in. Right? Problem is, we never know what day or what hour or even if it's coming. Right? Thieves don't normally drop something in your mailbox and say, hi y'all, I'm a thief, I'll be there Saturday night. Right? But what hour Saturday night? I need to know what hour. No, you have to stay up all Saturday night and watch, right? So the thief surprises us because he came when we were watching and he took our stuff, and now we're surprised and shocked. So Jesus continues in verse 44, therefore you, church members, true believers, be ready, for the Son of Man is coming, right? Be ready at all times, in an hour that you do not expect. In an hour, well, an hour is a very short space of time. It's only 60 minutes, right? So even if you're watching the two witnesses lay dead in the streets of Jerusalem for 3.5 days, right? And somewhere at the end of the 3.5 days, a voice from heaven says, come up here, right? And they rise to the clouds, right? Well, we know what rising to the clouds means. It's the first resurrection, right? So we're still not going to know exactly what hour. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Right? But it's for most of the world, it'll be a total surprise. For those of us, who knows where we'll be at the end of the tribulation period. But those of us who are still alive, we may not be able to see or know how long they've been lying dead in the streets. But God gave us some information, so it will come as an enormous shock, right? Come up here. The two witnesses everybody hated, and suddenly they stand on their feet. They've been dead 3.5 days. What on earth is going on? They start rising in the sky. Oh, we don't want this. All right, we got to kill them again. All right. Paul explains more about the thief surprise day in 1 Thessalonians 5:2. For you yourselves know perfectly, you've got full knowledge, right? He's been teaching them a lot, that the day of the Lord comes as a thief in the night. When they say peace and safety, then comes sudden destruction upon them. Now, throughout history, people have felt peace and safety just before sudden destruction happened. All right? The great city of Babylon. This was kind of cute because God had a hand in this, the hand writing on the wall. All right? The great city Babylon was overthrown in one night. In fact, in just like they had Daniel in there to explain what this hand of a man had written on the wall, and everybody was stunned, like, whose hand is that? Who did this? This is graffiti. We can't have this. We've got to have an explanation. They called in, and Daniel said, this night your kingdom is gone, it's taken. And while they were all partying and doing this and listening to Daniel, they had diverted the waters of the river Euphrates, and so the water level went down. The soldiers could come in under the gate of the river, and they were about to invade the palace, and that was the end of Babylon. Another example of peace and safety, there was peace and safety at Pearl Harbor the day before. On that Saturday before the Sunday morning, there was peace and safety, right? America had not ended the war. The war was in Europe. There was peace and safety in Pearl Harbor, and then suddenly, sudden destruction. There was, let's see, the worldwide surprise will come as described in Revelation 6:14. The sky receded as a scroll when it's rolled up. Okay, you can almost picture this. If you look up at a blue sky, and then you picture zzz, and now you're looking at the face of him on the throne and the Lamb of God getting on a white horse. It's like, now we can picture that because we have read the scriptures, and every year we're reminded to read those scriptures. So to us it's like, oh, good, it's here. Yippee, right? To everybody else it's like, that's an alien trick. Those aliens have learned how to roll back the blue sky or whatever, right? The dark night sky. So verse 16, he said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us, hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne. That's God the Father. The world is going to look up and see the face of God the Father. Woohoo! Right? And the wrath of the Lamb. So Paul explains that church members should not be surprised if the sky is scrolling open. Right. 1 Thessalonians 5:4. But you, brethren, not in darkness, as this day should overtake you as a thief or unexpectedly. Therefore let us not sleep. Now, how many of you slept last night? See, look at that. That's terrible. He's meaning spiritually. Don't sleep spiritually. Have you ever known a church member who's been spiritually asleep? Anybody? Yeah, sadly. Right, as others do, but let us watch and be sober, because he's given us a checklist. Right? Now, most people, if you listen to Sunday morning preachers on the radio and TV, they say, you can't find America anywhere in prophecy. Not so, my friend. You can, if you know where to look. So we need to be watching the mile marker checklist countdown as it occurs. Jesus told Daniel to write down what Jesus has planned in Daniel 11:41. This hasn't happened, and right now it doesn't look like it could happen, right? But he shall enter the glorious land. Anybody know what the glorious land is? Israel, the Holy Land. They call it the Holy Land, right? There's only one place, right? So the glorious land of God. And many other countries shall be overthrown. So what could be happening there, right? Israel could be being attacked again, as it has many times throughout history, right? And then, right, many Arab nations could be responsible for the attack, and therefore this third superpower party attacks and captures and overthrows those Arab nations. In the Kuwait War, great militaries entered Kuwait to save them and to overthrow the power of the Iraq army and drive them back out of Kuwait and give Kuwait back to Kuwait. Overthrowing many countries will be, if you stop and think about it, a massive military undertaking. If you overthrow one country, one Arab country, it's going to take quite a bit of effort, right? And we're all tired of that. We don't want to take over Afghanistan, and we wish it had turned out differently, right? We don't want to take over Iraq, and we don't want to take, right? So what if something so big occurred that we repeated the Afghanistan thing on steroids, right? And 9/11 was pretty shocking. I mean, I can still replay where I was, who I was talking to, what kind of TV I was watching when all those events were going on. It's like, how could that happen? Well, it did happen. Daniel 11:43 shows this is more like a total control invasion such as France suffered in World War II, right? And Daniel 11:43 shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver and over all the precious things of Egypt and the Libyans and the Ethiopians. Okay, Hitler had total control over all the precious things of France. It was like there were German troops all over France, and nothing happened in France that wasn't approved of by German troops. They had total control. So when we see Egypt captured, the Jesus checklist shows that humanity will quickly transition from World War III to nuclear war to the Great Tribulation, right? Now things have moved slowly since 9/11, right? And we could do a Bible study on it if anybody's interested, but 9/11 to me, Daniel is 9/11, Daniel 40, 11:40, just that one verse was 9/11 plus 20 years, right? And if you just take it really slowly and you examine each word, you can see how it perfectly fits with the events of 9/11 and then the following 20 years and Afghanistan, which happened this year. We finally left Afghanistan this year, 20 years later, right? So Jesus did not tell Daniel about the massive sudden destruction terror attack that will begin the invasion of the many Arab nations. In fact, none of us here, I believe, can comprehend how big of an attack it would need to be. Like 9/11, we attacked Afghanistan. Within 3 weeks, we had bombs falling on terror camps in Afghanistan. That's how quickly we responded, right? So, and that was the horrible, horrible 9/11. So, to capture many Arab nations, to have that kind of a response, it would like, wow, you know, this is unbelievably gigantic, and you know, most of us can't comprehend what it could be. And it could be a dirty bomb in New York City. That's just a wild guess. Probably won't be that, right? Anyhow, Israel has been attacked many times in recent history, but they have fought back and overcome their enemies, and we're kind of used to that. Right? It's like Israel will get attacked again, they will fight back, they will win again. So what? Okay, no problem. No, the big one is coming. Daniel 11:41 through 43 indicates that Israel will be unable to survive without gigantic military help from a far stronger group of nations. Pearl Harbor was a massive terror attack, and that instantly moved us into full-time war activity. You know, December the 7th, on December the 8th, the president stood in front of Congress, and they declared war on Japan, and America went whoop, into full wartime activity. Well, that's kind of what is going to happen with the attack on Israel and the capturing of many Arab nations. September the 11th, 2001 was a powerful terror attack on heart of New York City, and like I say, immediately within 3 weeks we were bombing Afghanistan. Jesus doesn't tell us what kind of sudden destruction terror event will start a full-scale invasion of the Middle Eastern nations. He doesn't tell us. So we have to wait until Egypt gets attacked. Right? When Egypt gets captured, guess what we've got? We've got Daniel 11:41. That's where we are. It's a mile marker. You can check that one off. Then you can read verse 42, verse 43, verse 44. Oh, wow. Verse 44, nuclear war. Is anybody talking about nuclear war on the news yesterday and today? Putin is like throwing them out there. You know, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. Right? And it's like, yeah, you better be joking. But anyhow, he's got a lot of people scared. They don't want nuclear war, and wisely so. Nuclear war is horrible. So hands up if you know how to play chess. Anybody here know how to play chess? 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, we got some people who know play chess. Okay, so Chess is a war game where you try to capture the opponent's king, right? Those of you who know, that's how it's done. Those of you who don't, I can teach you in no time flat. It's a lot of fun, right? Can anyone tell us what must happen to this chess set to be ready for battle? This one here.
Everything placed in its place.
Okay, you have to lay the board out and you have to have each piece in its place. Then you can start the battle, right? Okay, but if there are any pieces missing, you can't start the battle. You can't, right? Now I guess you could if you're really whiz kid at chess and you played with an advantage or something. You could, I guess you could leave off a piece or two, but in an ordinary game, you can't start the game until all the pieces are in place, right? So currently, there are two major players on the world scene that are not available for the capturing of the nations in the Middle East, right? So before the Great Terror Attack can happen, all the players need to be ready and active. One major player that is missing is most of the Arab leaders in the world are not currently eager to attack Israel. Now they have been, right? If you look at all the attacks against Israel, it includes most of the Arab nations and their leaders at the time, right? Then let's see, they made a peace treaty with Egypt and Israel, and that lasted 30 years, and Mubarak finished that out. Then they voted for the Muslim Brotherhood, and that was starting to get pretty shaky. Then they threw him in jail, and he died in jail, and we're back to Egypt is stable, right? But if you change the Arab leadership, which changes pretty often in world history, right, then you could have that missing player in place. The second missing player is a supremely powerful military that is a best friend to Israel. A best friend to Israel. Because most nations are not supremely powerful. And some of the supremely powerful nations do not want to save Israel. They'd be just as happy to see Israel gone. Right? So Israel had such a super best friend in the White House 3 years ago, but not now. So that would have been a possible time period for something to happen, but it didn't. And now we're here where we are, right? But when both of these players are present on the chessboard, then all the players are ready. 1.6 billion Muslims are taught from childhood to hate Israel and Jews and the great Satan, America, and for that matter, anybody but Muslims on what they consider Muslim territory. And they want to die getting rid of that, and they want to push Israel into the sea, and they've tried many times before and they've failed, and they know that if America steps in, they will fail again. So they need in their minds to get rid of the big Satan and the little Satan pretty much simultaneously, right? And that's what God is showing us in Daniel 11:41, right? So we're not to be surprised when Egypt gets captured, but we should also not be surprised when a huge terror attack occurs to cause the invasion of many Arab nations in the Middle East. So in let's see, two superpower enemies of democracy. Anybody tell me who the two superpower enemies of democracy are?
China and Russia.
Russia and China. Is there anything hidden now about Russia's intents and China's intents? It's all out in the open, isn't it? They want to destroy the West. And they got their foot in the door, really. And they're talking about people in Germany dying of freezing to death because Russia's planning to cut off their supply of gas, right, heating oil and so on. So it's like we're already in a very unstable set of circumstances, right? And so they've showed their cards, right? Daniel 11:44 says, "But news from the east And you have to stop and ask yourself, east of what? East of Jerusalem. Because that's where the many Arab nations have been focusing their attack, right? And that's where, like in Kuwait, that was the center point of that war, pushing people back out of Kuwait. Well, in this case, the center point of the war will be Israel, pushing people back out of Israel or away from Israel. So east of Jerusalem is China. And we know what China's up to. We know they're a superpower. We know they have immense military capacity. North of Jerusalem, that's Russia. You take a world map and you draw a line straight out of Jerusalem, Moscow, straight up there, right? And so this third superpower goes out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many, which means stops any military intervention from those two great superpowers, right? These two enemies will be watching for the great friend of Israel to be too busy to engage in a secondary war. If you've got boots on the ground in many Arab nations in the Middle East, you don't have anything left to go start a secondary war with boots on the ground someplace else. So, like I say, 1.6 billion, that is a huge number of the population of planet Earth are being taught to hate that Israeli situation. When Egypt gets captured, the shocking plans of Jesus will be in full swing. The mile markers, the checklist. Egypt is going to be like so obvious. If you've read Daniel, you're expecting Egypt to get captured. Egypt gets captured. It's going to be so blatantly obvious. That's where we are in Bible prophecy. Daniel 11:41, 42, 43. And then the next shoe to drop is 44, nuclear destruction, right? Which is backed up by trumpet number 4. You read trumpet 4, a third of the sun, a third of the moon, a third of the stars, right? You Google that and you ask Mr. Google, what is nuclear winter? And they will describe for you, can't see the sun, the moon, the stars because of the particles in the sky. Blocks it off, keeps the sun from hitting the earth, everything freezes, you get a nuclear winter, you get radioactivity, and so on. So then you get trumpet number 4 is another checklist, a mile marker, checked off. And we're moving swiftly through the end times, right? So Jesus gives us details of the future plans and urges all true believers to be mentally ready, to be watching. First verse in Revelation is to show my servants things that are going to happen. Second, let's see, in Colossians 2, 16 and 17, he's given Sabbaths and holy days, festivals, as shadows of future events, things to come. Trumpets is a shadow of things to come, right? Luke 12:37, blessed are those servants whom when their master comes, he will find them so watching. If he comes in the second watch, or if he comes in the third watch, these are late in the evening watches, and finds them so, blessed are those servants, because spiritually and biblically and knowledge of prophecy, they have been watching the world news, they've been watching Daniel, they've been watching Revelation, Matthew 24, right? And they will know where they are in prophecy beyond the shadow of a doubt. Luke 12:39. But know this, if the master of the house had known the hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed the house to be broken in. So it's like, it's going to come as a surprise. If you're thinking the way the world is thinking, it's going to come as a surprise to you too. If you're thinking the way Daniel is laid out, Revelation is laid out, then you know, and you could ask almost anybody in the intelligence community, will Israel be attacked again? What do you think the answer would be from like 99% of them? Yes, because there's 1.6 billion people who want that to happen. So Luke 12:40, be therefore ready, the Son of Man is coming in an hour, in a short period that you're not expecting. So most of the world is oblivious to the Daniel 11 countdown checklist. Only a few can see like I say, that Daniel 11:40 was 9/11, right? We celebrated that just a few days ago. Daniel 11:41, the capture of Egypt and many Arab nations is in our near future. World shocking events will happen in quick succession because once Egypt is captured, then Russia and China will know this is an opening, an opportunity to cripple the American West. And they will be very surprised at the response. God already has foreseen what the response would be. So, but the good news is, and you'd all like some good news by this time, right, is that when the tribulation does start, it will only be 3.5 years until the return of Jesus Christ and thy kingdom come.